We are here with Brandye Hendrickson, Deputy Director of the Texas Department of Transportation today. And I'm so excited to have you as a guest on Between Two Cones.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm here with two of my favorite people, Trish and Amanda, and just really value the work that you both do and in support of state DOTs and just really happy to be able to share some thoughts that I have and happy for the platform to be able to do it. So thanks.
Awesome. Well, tell us a story.
Oh my goodness.
You've had a very long, interesting road to get here from being in DC and Indiana DOT and all of the things that have brought you to where you are today. And I would just like to hear a little bit about how you got here. I know when I was growing up, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. So I didn't expect to be in transportation. I thought I would be uncovering dinosaur bones and relics that belong in a museum. So what did you want to do?
Sure. When I was growing up, I wanted to be an orthodontist. So that didn't happen. But then when I got to college, I was in communications and I also had a meteorology class. And so I thought maybe I'll be the weather girl. And so kind of throughout the college era, I thought I'd be the weather girl. But then when I realized all the nights and weekends, that didn't really sound like the best approach. So weather girl was out, but I had been working in restaurants pretty much my whole working life. And so I ended up managing restaurants right out of college. And that was an experience that taught me I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So
you learn a lot in retail and food, though, about people.
Absolutely. I learned so much about people. I learned so much about customer service. I learned a whole lot about managing people. And so it was not a waste of time. It was just a very, it was a hard job and it was a hard way of living. And so I started my career with the state of Indiana actually in an entry-level HR job. So through my restaurant management experience, I had just enough management experience and along with my college degree to qualify for an entry-level HR professional job. And I could not believe my lucky stars that first day that I showed up at work and I got to work in a place that had an elevator. And to this day, when I walk into work and step into the elevator every single day, I'm so grateful for that and that I get to work in a place that has an elevator. So I never forget, kind of that season of my life and how important it was and how it shaped the perspective and the gratitude that I have for every job that I've ever had since.
I was in retail and food for a while as well. And I feel the same way with holidays, like Black Friday and not getting to really enjoy Thanksgiving with my family or Christmas Eve and things like that. And so every year I'm like, I need to just take a moment to remember what I come from.
My holiday was always the 4th of July. The 4th of July was always the one that just pained me so much to have to work. And I think it's because that was my mom's favorite holiday. And so it was just, something felt wrong about having to work on the 4th of July. And I know that, we have people that do. I know we have contractors and we have frontline employees. And so that is not lost on me either. But I am just really grateful that I have the chance to be in a position that I don't have to typically work the 4th of July. So that's really great. Definitely holidays, big deal. Anyway, so I just worked for a relatively small state agency in Indiana, Indiana's state government, and worked my way up through the ranks in the HR department and became the human resources director there. And it was great. I learned so much about, management and progressive discipline and performance management and employee relations. I just got a very generalist overview and experience being the HR director and being able to lead this team of people who were really customer service people in providing services to our agency. I then had the chance to become the human resources director at the Indiana DOT. And so even though I was the human resources director in one state agency, moving over to the Indiana DOT to a much larger agency was a promotion for me. And I jumped at that chance. I didn't know anything about transportation, really. I didn't know that much about what NDOT did, but I looked at the opportunity to grow and to take on that new role. And it was, probably, among the best moves I ever made, because then it opened my whole world to this new realm of something that I didn't know about, and, kind of laid the framework for being, these other positions that I've had throughout my career. So the move to NDOT was really great. And I still get NDOT and TxDOT coming out of my mouth the wrong way. Same with Fort Worth and Fort Wayne. So I always stumble over that. But anyway, so I got the chance to go to NDOT and learn all about transportation and learn about the difference between pavements, between asphalt and concrete pavement. Wow, who knew? But really get to learn about the different jobs that were available within the department, learn about all the different functions, about all the different ways that we support the communities that we serve, and, learn about our pay structure and the CDL requirements, and really all of the different things that go along with serving a transportation agency. So we had a great team of HR professionals.
I had no idea the breadth of types of jobs that are within the transportation industry. You coming from outside, you think it's the guys on the road doing construction, maybe an admin office, but then to learn about, there's the bridge welders and the chainsaw handlers and the drone flyers and the pilots and just the breadth of, you can do anything. You could do archaeology. Who knew I could have been transportation Indiana Jones,
Yes, exactly. Yep. The engineers and
Yeah.
the surveyors and the HR professionals and the accountants. Oh my gosh, so many IT people that we have to have. So yep, there's a wide range of opportunities and no shortage of variety in transportation. So
I was amazed about real estate.
oh yeah.
The appraisers and everything. That was one that really threw me, as I thought, wow, I never would have thought about it, but it makes sense. You're looking at roads and tarmacs and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah. The environmental scientists.
Definitely. I was just going to say the environmental stuff and like protecting these endangered species or waterways or like that. I had no
and
idea.
tribal specialists that engage with, with tribes. And yeah, it's just, there's so much variety. So I was doing a great job as the HR director, I thought, and liked my job and was learning new things every day. And the commissioner at the time, that's what they're called in Indiana, those people that lead the Indiana DOT are called commissioners. There is a commissioner. And he came to me as the HR director and said, well, we're getting ready to have one of our district directors retire, and I need you to help me recruit a district director. And so that was great. I'm happy to do that. It was a big job. It was the biggest district in the state. And in Indiana, there's no requirement that the person leading the district has to be an engineer. There are engineers that lead districts, but it's not a requirement there. He also put a little footnote on it and said that he would love to be the commissioner that hired the first ever female district director in Indiana's history. And so that added a little extra pressure to try to find, the right person for that job. So I scoured the earth for the right person to lead the district and contacted a bunch of people, did a lot of recruiting, did a lot of outreach. And it was really hard to find somebody who wanted to take on that job. It's a hard job, but in any case, he came back to me a short time later and said, would you be interested in being considered for that job? And I said, well, I don't really know that much about building roads. And he said, well, I don't know that much about building roads either, but that's not really a requirement of the job. a requirement of the job is that you know how to lead people, that you know about budgets, that you know how to have important conversations with elected officials, that you can bring people together. And those are all skills that I've seen in you and think that you could, that would help make you successful in this job. The other stuff, the pavement conditions and how to build projects and construction activities, you can surround yourself with people who have those skills. But what's really important for this job are skills and abilities that I believe that you already have. So that was awesome. And so I got to lead the district, and it was so far my most favorite job I ever had. I did it for more than 7 years.
Why, like, what about it made it your favorite job? I'm just curious.
Because every single day I got to see the fruit of my labor, right?
Mhm.
So you're close enough to the work, close enough to the folks that are, boots on the ground, making things happen, got to smell asphalt, and you really got to see how the work that you're doing can really impact a community, whether it's a construction job transforming a downtown to make it a place where people want to congregate and to, live their lives, to, adding safety improvements that at an intersection where teenagers have died and making those safety improvements that would prohibit that from ever happening again. Making decisions every day about where and what projects to do, really really helping the people that you lead understand the role that they have in economic development, whether it's at the local level or at the state level, just really helping people make those connections about the job that they show up to every day and how that really does impact quality of life for all the people that they serve. So a lot of different reasons why that was my most favorite job. Obviously, the variety of people that I got to interact with on a daily basis, from the staff to the local officials to, just lots of variety in the day. You just never know if it was going to be a ribbon cutting or if it was going to be a nighttime ride to look at pavement conditions or to check retro reflectivity of signs. It was a really great job, and probably the job where I learned the most out of any job I ever had. It was also the job that I had when my daughter was born. And so that probably is special to me. And I just had such a great team of people that I got to do life with every day in the office. And it just was really very special. And it was very family oriented. And actually the people that I worked around, really felt like family. So that was awesome. But in any case, I then had the chance to become the commissioner of the Indiana DOT. So at that time, our commissioner was leaving, and I had, done a decent job as leading the district. And so I was approached by the governor to come lead the department. And there was a winter in between that time and the next election. And they knew that it was important that we did winter well. And I had done winter well in my job. So that was one factor, but also just the relationships that I had built in the district, and the way that I had led the district was something that they were appreciative of and recognized that, it was a good opportunity for me to go to the next level. And so that was terrifying because I didn't know how to be a political appointee and to have to navigate working with the General Assembly and working on legislation and dealing with, stakeholder groups way more than I had to in the district, lobbyists and such. And so that also was a huge learning experience, but one that was very exciting and just exposed me to a lot of things that I had not previously been exposed to. And got to, work downtown and, had a nice office and
Nice elevator.
got to go up in the elevator every day. but again, just got to put together my own team of people and really put out, I had a vision for what I thought the department could be. And here is a funny story actually about that. When I first got into the role of commissioner, I brought together our entire executive leadership team because we had to do like a visioning exercise, right? We were, kind of putting together our strategy and our goals for the next year. I was new to the job. There were several other people new to the job on the leadership team. And you guys will appreciate this. We got all of our flip charts out and all of our markers and all of our tabs and stickers and started really ideating about what the vision should be and what the goals for the next year should be. And there, white boards and papers up on every wall. And then we got down to the wordsmithing, right? So, that's the worst part of any of these exercises is trying to wordsmith all of these ideas that you've put on paper. And it was late in the day and everybody was getting cranky and the food had run out. And so I get to it and I'm like, you know what? I think if we just kind of throw all this stuff away and we just work hard and be nice, then that's just going to take, everything else will take care of itself. And so while we did ultimately end up having goals for the year and all of that, what resonated with everyone and what really came out of that day is let's just work hard and be nice and we'll be successful. And so that's something that stuck with me the rest of my career. And people send me coffee mugs that say, work hard and be nice. I have t-shirts that say, work hard and be nice. And it really is kind of a message that resonates with people because you can't do one without the other and be successful. But if you do them both, then you're probably going to have a pretty good chance of success. So that's kind of the one, there are a lot of great takeaways from that job that I had, but that's one memory that I will never forget and something that's just, I've carried with me throughout the rest of my career. So
I love that. Work hard, be nice.
yeah,
That's like, I always say, be a good human first. Like,
keep it simple, but you also have to work hard. You have to be a good,
yes,
well, I guess
you're
work
right.
hard, but anyway, so I love that job, learned so much, got lots of success stories from that time that I spent there, and so many great people that I got to work with and so many connections that I got to make. But then my boss, the governor, decided that he was going to go be the vice president of the United States. And so that was, we were all very nervous about that, as the cabinet official, you're like, oh, what's going to happen to me? Because I wasn't, I had to have a job. I was, somebody that, I'd worked my way up through the state system and had a family and, it was uncertain times because we didn't, as cabinet members, didn't know what would happen. And so shortly after, actually it was after the election and before the inauguration, the governor reached out to me, the vice president-elect, and asked me if I would be interested in coming to Washington, D.C. And the secret is I really wasn't interested. I loved being in Indiana, but that is not something you say no to in that moment. So of course I'm interested. What an amazing opportunity.
And your position in Indiana was appointed. So
it was, as the commissioner, I was in an appointed position, although I had worked my way up. I started in an entry-level HR job with the state of Indiana years and years and years before, but ultimately it was an appointed position as the commissioner of NDOT.
Mm-hmm. You don't know for sure that you get to keep it with the governor.
No, and in fact, generally when there's a governor change, whether it's the same, political party or not, they like to bring in their own people, which is fair. But for somebody like me, I was like, I need a job. So it was, made me nervous about my future. And there was a lot of uncertainty. So, but that said, I did get to go to Washington, D.C., and I became the acting administrator of the Federal Highway Administration. We had a very close working relationship and very positive working relationship with our division office in Indiana. We really saw them as partners. And it was really an excellent model that I knew we could build on as I had the chance to lead the agency. And so I packed up my family, sold my house, moved to DC. My husband gave up his great job with the state of Indiana, gave up our dentist and our church and our hairdressers, and started a new life in Washington, DC. And it was an amazing chance to do something different, but it was also terrifying. And it was the biggest risk I had ever taken. It turned out to be a really great opportunity, and just learned a lot from working in the federal government, learned a lot from leading that agency, through providing input on reauthorization and really trying to advance the nation's priorities in terms of safety and infrastructure and project delivery and how we steward taxpayer dollars, and continued to preach the gospel of work hard and be nice. And that, resonated with that team as well, but also tried to convey a sentiment of your success is our success. And that was important because, a lot of times the state federal partnership is not one that is, there's a lot of like oversight and checking the checker. Those things are important. But the most important thing was that, in my mind, was that we were all working together to try to deliver projects that were important for the American people, that would enhance safety. And so that idea that if states are successful in delivering their programs and their projects, then we as a federal government would be successful. And that message really resonated with the team, because I think that they were just looking for the green light to be able to do that. That's what they wanted to do all along. And that really resonated with those folks, especially the ones that worked in the division offices and had that day-to-day interaction with the state. So that's probably one thing that I'm most proud of, is advancing that kind of customer service culture and that idea of being, a partner in lockstep with the states. I then had the chance from that job to work for AASHTO as the deputy director. And AASHTO is the organization that represents state DOTs in Washington, D.C. So they have a 52-member board of directors that's comprised of the CEOs from all of the state DOTs, including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. That's what the 52 is. But then had the chance to really advocate for funding, work with AASHTO on their strategic plan. Their leadership development series is something else that I got to be a part of. And really my job was to work with the board of directors to help define our policy as an organization and get consensus, which is not easy to do with 52 states that all have different ideas about things. But it was a great learning experience. I had never worked for an organization that was led by a board. Really got to know members of Congress and, how all the four corners work together to advance policy. And the other part of AASHTO is really bringing all state DOTs together to learn from each other. And I loved that part of it, and was really got involved with the meeting planning and, the content of our meetings, and making sure that we were providing the best value to our members, which was super great. And then the pandemic hit, and Washington, D.C. was a really hard place to live. Oh my goodness. They were, shut down for business. My daughter's school was out for 2 years, and businesses were closed, and we couldn't go anywhere. And it was really, really hard. And as it was for everybody, I wasn't unique in that, but the DC area was much more restrictive than other parts of the country, namely Texas, who was wide open for business. And so when the opportunity came for us to come to Texas, I jumped at the chance. TxDOT was an organization that I highly respected. Mark Williams, our executive director, was somebody I had known through my work at AASHTO and through FHWA, and I had a lot of respect for him and thought what an amazing adventure it would be to come to TxDOT with their incredible program, the huge staff that we have. It's a state that I, had not spent a whole lot of time in, but knew there would be a lot to explore. And so we came to Texas, and I came to TxDOT as the Deputy Executive Director of Planning and Administration. And so I have responsibility over all of our planning and modal programs functions, and I get to be responsible for our communications and our government affairs and our strategy and innovation group, which is awesome. And it is just a huge and amazing and very diverse portfolio of work that I get to have. And, but mostly the best part really is just getting to lead the department overall. I get to work with Brian, my counterpart, who's the other deputy executive director, and Carl, who's our chief engineer. And we really get to work together across all of our divisions and districts to help lead the department and support Mark in his vision for how the organization is managed. And so we have a great team, and we have an incredible 13,175 person organization with a $40 billion biennial budget, which is incredible. And it's awesome to have all of those resources at our disposal to be able to advance our transportation system, but also recognize what a huge responsibility it is to make sure that we are good stewards of that responsibility and of those resources. And trust me that there is never a shortage of opportunities to manage in any day. So it's an exciting place to be. And as I just recounted my entire career history up until this day, I'm still incredibly in awe about the opportunities that I've had to meet people, the opportunities that I've had to learn, and the incredible just professionals that we have that work in this field, that are so dedicated to safety, that are so dedicated to economic development and vitality, and who really want to make their states thrive through transportation. And I'm just so happy that and lucky to be a part of it.
So, thinking back on what you shared and hearing about all the different places you've been, I mean, not only different jobs, but and levels of authority and responsibility, but also different parts of the nation. How did you adjust? I mean, you walk in and new day on the job isn't just I have to learn a few new skills. It's you're learning a whole new culture, a whole new area of the country. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So, walk me through it. How did you do that?
Well, I never really anticipated that actually before it hit me in the face when I moved to DC, because it is so vastly different there than anywhere else, that I had been. And so I wasn't prepared for that. Actually, it was a hard place to live. I mean, just with the density, the population density was huge. Just the way that people were transient there. So they would come in and do 2 or 4 year assignments, whether they were military or government. Everybody, including all the parents on my daughter's sports team, were always, trying to figure out an angle or a point of influence, right? So I'm used to Midwest nice, right? People are just kind. And in DC, it's always, well, I'm nice, but I'm really nice if there's some kind of access that you can get me, or if there's some kind of way that you can improve my standing. So that was definitely hard to get used to. And then just so like the diversity in DC was just incredible, like just the different languages. And, my daughter's school had 60 different countries represented by their students in their one elementary school. So, I mean, it was really fascinating. Just like you say, like the culture was just so different than anything I had ever been exposed to until I moved to Texas. And then that also is a different culture. And it's amazing. We have a a new safety initiative underway at TxDOT called Drive Like a Texan. And people laugh at that. People who aren't from Texas laugh at that because, we're kind of known for egos and driving fast and big pickup trucks and all that. But really, to us, what Drive Like a Texan means is being kind and being courteous and being safe and treating each other on the road the same way we treat each other in our neighborhoods and at the HEB, the best grocery store on the planet.
Yeah.
Um,
I wave all the time, and
yes,
I
the Texas
realize that's
wave.
not a thing in other areas. Like just that when your hands on the wheel and you,
Yep. And so the Texas spirit, coming, being new to Texas, I guess, is alive and well. And there is a lot of pride. There's a lot of Texas pride here for good reason. But there's also a sense of, neighborliness and kindness and looking out for each other. And so coming to TxDOT, I really wasn't sure what to expect because in a lot of ways, TxDOT is the leader in the things that we do from, across the country, compared to other state DOTs. But having worked in and with other state DOTs in the jobs that I've had before, I knew that we weren't the leaders in everything. And so I was a little bit nervous about, how people who have been here in the department for decades would perceive me and my ideas coming in fresh and not really knowing that much about Texas or TxDOT. And they surprised me by being open to my thoughts and open to my feedback and appreciating the fresh perspective that I bring and the different ideas. So while yes, there is a lot of Texas pride and there is, some ego that goes along with that, there's also a willingness to try to get better and try to improve because we want to continue to be the best and we want to continue to lead the way in different areas. And there's recognition that we do that we need to be open to other ideas. So I feel like it's a good balance.
I'm glad to hear that Texas has been such a welcoming culture shock, right? Where people are just nice to be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe
part of it too might be that, Texas grows by 1,500 people every single day. Think about that for a minute. 1,500 people every day, Texas grows. And so maybe part of it is that, the demographics in Texas are changing. And, in my neighborhood alone, we have so many people from California and Washington and Oregon. And I think there is, a recognition that, that our demographics are changing. And it also is an incredible demand on our transportation system, right? So from a TxDOT planning perspective, culture aside, a lot of the people that are coming to Texas are coming with trucks. So it's not, it's not just little babies being born. It is people moving here with their big trucks and putting an immediate demand on our transportation system. So we're, trying to make strategic investments in how we manage the resources that we've been given and try to balance the congestion needs with the needs for safety and preservation. And that is one of the things that makes my job really interesting as we, go through a very methodical year-long process of the development of our 10-year plan and really being able to plan for the future, but take lots of facts about the current demographics into account as we plan those investments. So it's very exciting time, actually.
Speaking from the Seattle area where we have crazy congestion, I can only imagine, what that means for the traveling public and for their expectations and how they live their lives. If you have 1,500 people every day moving to the state, right? I mean, that has the potential to radically change what it looks like and feels like to live in Texas.
We have a really great relationship with our state demographer's office. And, every year we bring them in to really advise us on the trends that they're seeing. Where's the population? coming from? Where are they moving to within the state? How, which counties are growing and what's the anticipated growth? And so we really do take that information and incorporate it into our planning processes and make sure that, we're making the best investments. We really do try to strike a balance too between the urban, investing in the urban areas, but also investing along those connectivity corridors in rural areas. So those corridors that connect urban areas, because we know for freight mobility and for safety, like, ensuring that and giving people options, investing in both are really important. So again, like, it really is a balance, and we're doing a lot of things as it relates to safety, and our safety numbers are getting better. They're pretty much on par with the national trend, which, everybody knows there was this huge spike of fatalities during COVID, which is so bizarre since fewer people were driving. They were kind of just lost their minds or whatever, but the numbers have been trending down since then. But also, we're very much more data driven than we have been before. And we have so many tools at our fingertips that we're able to use in terms of predicting crashes and looking at hotspots. And one area where TxDOT was actually not a leader across the country was in our alternative intersection design. And that was something that I had seen in my career in Indiana, but also a proven safety countermeasures at the federal level was, really to focus on improving intersection design. So we started a task force and actually stood up a section within our design division to focus on alternative intersections. It seems like a small thing, but it was a big culture shift for us to reconsider some of these things using data, but also using experiences from other states to be able to make our intersections safer.
So have you found that a greater use of data has changed or impacted the way you lead people? Not just
oh my gosh,
making decisions.
probably. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a dashboard for everything, right? We have a dashboard for everything. And we, as, the executive team, we have a review of some of our key performance metrics on a quarterly basis. We look at, safety information. We look at pavement conditions. We look at bridge conditions. We look at investment levels. We look at customer service metrics. And it really does help us decide, where to put resources. It helps us determine, if we need to shift things around, or if we need to dig into something more to look at root causes. So I definitely think that data definitely helps us make decisions. But the other thing related to data and just technology in general is, of course, you can't have any conversation about that without talking about the impact of AI. And we are going through this significant digital transformation here at TxDOT. We are on our second version of our AI strategic plan. And we're looking at so many different use cases for AI applications and how we may be able to leverage AI technology in so many different ways. We've already done a project on our invoicing. We're using AI to validate invoices, and that saved like tons of time. We've got different AI. We put out almost 1,000 Microsoft Copilot licenses for our staff for, just document generation and, email organizing and things like that. But the one that's I'm most excited about is using the technology to identify crashes on the roadway faster, or incidents actually that get emergency responders out quicker. And we're seeing an 11-minute improvement in emergency response to our crashes. And if you think about being hit by a car and being injured, how meaningful 11 minutes could be for those emergency responders to show up. So that's the one that we've put into place that I'm most excited about. And we're looking to expand that to some other districts now. But we have about 200 use cases in our AI strategic plan, the first version that we did. And now we're just trying to hone those and figure out how, how do we prioritize those? You can't do everything, but what are the biggest bang for the buck, as they say, putting together kind of a readiness scorecard for, can we implement some of this now and some of it later? But I really do feel like it's going to transform kind of the way we do business. We will always have a human in the loop, and I don't think it's going to replace people. I just think it's going to help people do their jobs better and kind of shift some of the, dangerous and dirty jobs, or even the entry level kind of clerical work, to a more, more analyst type responsibilities. And so we've got to do what we can to make sure that we're ready, that our folks are trained, that we're even all speaking the same language. And so something that we're, doing this year is really a push for training for AI. So everybody even knows, what the language is, making sure that we have AI champions within all of our divisions, so they can be on the lookout for the best use cases that can make the biggest difference, and be kind of ambassadors within their own areas for the use of AI. And really kind of pushing people to think about ways to use it. So I'm excited about this year, and about our executive director, Mark. He is all on it. He's constantly using AI to look at information or generate information, or using different tools. And he's, out here, we're all just trying to keep up with him. So but it is an exciting time, and one that's going to take some real leadership, but also some creative HR types, to make sure that we have good workforce plans in place, make sure that we have good training, meaningful training in place, one that, training that's really relevant to us and to the work that we do. And then also just kind of change management and culture change, which is hard for everybody. And, have our arms around, how we communicate it to people, and helping them understand what it means for their jobs, and, reducing any kind of anxiety around it, but also asking people to kind of come along on the journey with us. So it's going to be a fun time to lead through. I say this transition, it's not going to be like one way today and a different way tomorrow. It's going to be a kind of a long journey, I think, but one that we're already starting to see the results from. And, I had the chance to go to the Transportation Research Board annual meeting last couple weeks ago. And I mean, AI was everywhere. Like it's on everybody's mind. And, and so it is going to be something that is here to stay, I think, for us, and just figuring out the best use cases for it, and how we can leverage it to be more efficient and be really better stewards of our resources, I think is the bottom line for us.
I also worked my way up. I started as a clerk typist, and, kind of worked my way through an organization. And when you were sharing your story, and then I start thinking about AI, I keep wondering, how do you think AI might change career journeys in the future?
Yeah, I do worry about it, because my daughter she's a junior in high school, and we're just now starting to do college visits. And I'm like, oh, like the entry level right out of college jobs might be the ones that are the most ripe for AI. And so, I think it's a little bit ironic that the soft skills that we've kind of dusted aside in recent history are going to become even more important. So collaboration, and, how you interact with people, those are going to be the skills that now kind of set you apart, I believe, because some of the task-oriented jobs will be done probably by AI. So I think focusing on building those soft skills, and focusing on becoming more of an analyst as opposed to an entry-level doer, I think is going to be really important. So I'm hoping that, colleges and universities see this too, and they're helping train up the next generation with that in mind. And then we as organizations, I think, have to, be mindful of that, and really, the clerk typist job is gone. In my office, I don't have a desk phone anymore, right? I just have my cell phone. And so we have seen transformations in how we conduct business over time. We all have laptops. We didn't used to have laptops. And so this is going to be one of those things. And so we can overcome it. We can adapt. We've shown that, before. I just think the pace and the rate of change is so much faster now.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to embrace it and just be open to, what's coming down the pike, and try to be as prepared for it as we can, and try to be good leaders through it, in that keeping open lines of communications, trying to meet people where they are, all of the good tenets of good leadership that have always been the case, but I think they're going to be, much more important now as we, kind of work through all of these exciting changes.
One of the things that TxDOT does that I think is really, I'm very proud that we do it as well as we do, and I think it's going to be a growing area, is internships, because it's not going to be enough to just have the degree. Having these internships while you're in college and directly out of college, where you get that experience, that's kind of that transition that takes you from the entry level position that might have, might be taken a little bit by AI, to the next level of really understanding what the agency needs from you in the organization.
Yeah. And not only that, because I think it works both ways. I mean, we benefit so much from the fresh ideas and the fresh perspective and the energy that these students bring to us. And we've actually transitioned from a like summer only type internship program to a year-round program. So we can have interns for a whole year, and that it's easier because, in my mind, because then for them, they get kind of the bigger picture, and it's not just kind of like in and out. But also for us, we get more meaningful work out of our interns because, they have more certainty and just have more chance to learn, and can be greater contributors to it. So I just think that our internships pay dividends, and we all benefit. Like, the students benefit from it. I mean, the interns, they benefit from the learning and the relationships and the understanding, but then we also learn from the skills that they've just learned in college, or the energy and enthusiasm and the technology savvy that they have. So the other thing is similar is our engineering assistant program, which I'm so proud of at TxDOT, because we take these folks who have just come out of college and we put them on this amazing rotation that lasts 4 years. And it's really an investment in them and a commitment by them, really, to learn all parts of the organization, so they can, get a sense for where they fit best and where their interests might lie. They may go into it thinking dead set on being a bridge engineer, but once they get out into construction and smell that asphalt, or get to see those, big pieces of heavy equipment, that maybe that is where their comfort is. So, or passion. So our engineering assistant program is, I would put it up against any in the country, because it really is an investment that we make and a commitment that they make to the organization. And I think it yields great results, as is evidenced by the folks that have been a part of the program and who are, current senior leadership within our organization.
So if you had any wisdom that you wanted to impart to listeners, anything either about leadership or about the transportation industry, what's that key takeaway that you hope people can understand or learn about transportation?
Well, I feel like, we kind of touched on the fact that there's so many different entry points to transportation. I think that jobs that provide a support function like finance or HR, or, a job that gets you exposure to a lot of different departments within the agency is a great opportunity, because you get to learn things, you get a broad perspective, you get a chance to interact with lots of different levels within the organization in terms of leadership. So I do think that no matter what your job is, you can't count yourself out for future leadership opportunities within any transportation department, because whatever you're doing is contributing. But the most important thing is that you are a contributor in your role. So you can't just, sit back and wait for the next promotion. I mean, you have to raise your hand. You have to connect with people, and it's purposeful. You have to volunteer to be the AI champion. You have to volunteer to sit on that special project. You also just have to be purposeful about to fostering relationships. And you have to do a good job, right? You can't just like kind of sit back and just coast into the next amazing promotional opportunity. So you have to work hard, and you have to, demonstrate to those around you that you're a contributor. You can't be a whiner. You got to be somebody that people want to be around, got to have a positive outlook. And all that's hard sometimes when you're just trying to do your job. But yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing opportunities within state DOTs and within transportation organizations that you should not sell yourself short depending on, just because you're not an engineer, or if you are an engineer, that you have an interest in this one little, area, because, you can create your own career path, and you can create amazing opportunities that.
So work hard, be nice.
Basically,
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it's simple. It's kind of
I
simple.
love it.
So we have a coin toss, and if it's heads, you get asked one question, and if it's tails, you get asked the other question. So we flip I have little coin, and I just flip it on the carpet here, and it came out tails. So tails question is, what was your first big ambition?
Oh. My goal coming out of college was to have a salary that was, for my entire career, that was $1,000 a year, or $1,000 for every year that I was alive. So when I came out of college, I wanted to earn, $23,000. And then the next year I wanted to earn $24,000. Well, that did not keep up with inflation very well, but that was my one goal. As I got older, I wanted to earn enough money that I could go on 2 Caribbean cruises a year. It's not always about money, but we do work for money. So yeah, my first goal was that $1,000 per every year of life. And I was able to kind of keep up with that, although that's real hard, I understand, for a lot of people with inflation. So.
Well, and now you live in Texas, where Caribbean cruises come right out of Galveston. So yeah,
drive on down, pick up the ship, go out for 7 days and come back. Yeah, it's real easy. It's awesome.
Love it. All right. So the next thing we have for you is we do something called Transportation in the Wild, where I'm going to show you, I'll give you a little prompt of what we're going to look at. Let me share my screen. Okay, so Texas in particular has quite a few roads that just feel a little wonky, right? Big open spaces, lots of ups and downs, strange fog, disorientation, any number of things. But this is just 2 examples near the Austin area where there are some strange roads that are famous in folklore. And I just wanted to get your opinions or thoughts on, have you ever been on any of these roads where you lose time? And
I don't remember ever losing time. I've been on Highway 281 near Johnson City a lot. It's, just right down the road from me here in Dripping Springs. So I get to experience a lot of these roads with similar characteristics that are mentioned here. I don't remember any fog pockets, but I don't deny that that's probably the case. Hill country elevation shifts for sure. That's why you've just got to slow down. You've got to take your time. You've got to really be mindful of other drivers, and you really have to look out for each other on Texas roads, because it is not for the faint of heart. The other thing that I would just say is the minute that I drove into Texas, July 4th of 2021.
4th of
Crossed
July,
Yep.
your favorite
Crossed-
holiday.
And a big U-Haul truck. Crossed into Texas, and I could immediately feel the difference, right? People drive faster, the speed limits are higher, there's less access control, meaning there are more driveways. And I think I was on this country road and the speed limit was like 70 miles per hour. I was like, what in the world is going on here? And so it is important, like speed is important to Texans. Having access from the road to your property is important to Texans. And so you have to accommodate for that when you're driving. And we have to accommodate that by, mitigating those things as TxDOT. But as a driver, you have, a big responsibility to make sure that you're always looking out, that you're, not driving distracted, that you've got your seatbelt on, and you're just looking out for everybody else and driving like a Texan, because it's the real deal.
We can make the roads as safe as we possibly can, but it still, in the end, relies on the drivers.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Love it.
I love it. Well, it has been so wonderful to get to spend some time with you, and really appreciate you being willing to take time out of your day, not only to talk with us, but also to share some of your story. And it's a wonderful story. I feel like we could talk a whole nother hour and still, not quite do more than scratch the surface. But you are definitely an inspirational leader in the transportation world. And we're super glad that when you went for a job in Indiana, you decided to go to TxDOT, and that you had the courage to take those opportunities when they appeared. So thank you for sharing all of that, Brandye. It's been really wonderful getting to learn more about you.
Thank you, guys. I'm so happy to get to spend some time with you guys today and other days, but especially today. So good excuse to get together. So thank you.
We always have fun.
Great.